Something that's quite common with my clients is that they'll be putting in a lot of work and effort into healing their skin, and maybe they're not seeing the results that they hoped in the time frame that it's been. And what I tend to describe to clients is actually this winter phase of healing. Now, what I mean by this is that if you were to look outside, by me at the moment, it's January, it's very cold, we're in the depths of winter, and a lot of the plants and trees outside look dead, and they've looked like that for a while now, at least 2 months. And if you didn't know anything, you think, okay, well, that tree's dead. We should maybe just give up on it and pull it out, plant something else, try something else. But what we know is that underneath the surface, what we can't see is that there's actually a lot of changes happening within that plant. It's reserving energy, it's getting ready to bloom in spring. So when we get to like March time, what you'll see is the signs of growth, the plant is coming back into full bloom. And this can kind of happen with healing. So I describe it as a winter phase of healing because you might be putting in all this effort and you don't feel like you've physically seen the progress. So it might be that you think, I've been doing all this stuff and I don't feel like my skin has actually changed yet. But actually, beneath the surface, inside your body, there could be a lot of changes happening. And as that mounts up, kind of snowballs, eventually you will get to a turning point. You'll get to your spring where you will start seeing the changes. So to give you an example of like time frames, it might be that you've done some tests, you found that you have some nutrient deficiencies, you've started taking the supplements to correct the nutrient deficiencies. Now, nutrient deficiencies, depending on the nutrient, can take a while to correct. With something like iron or the B vitamins, I would recommend doing it for 3 months to actually see that improve. Now, something like vitamin D, you might be able to correct within a month, but if we're looking at things that take a little bit longer, if we're thinking about immune function and inflammation, gut health, hormones, that you might be looking more towards the 3 to 6 months to really see a difference. Now, I'm not saying that when clients are on this journey that they're not seeing any improvements at all for months or even a full year. Usually what happens, even though it's really frustrating, is that you might find that the other symptoms that maybe you weren't aware of or you weren't that bothered about actually start to improve. And the symptom that you want to heal the fastest, which is probably your skin, tends to be the last thing to fully show improvement. So what you might see is that you've been doing all this work, you're exercising, you're eating well, you're using the skincare, and maybe your energy's actually improved, or you have better bowel movements, you don't feel as bloated, or your periods are actually becoming a little bit more regular, or they're not as painful. All of that can improve first before, for some people, before they start to see the improvements in the skin. And if you keep going, you will get to a point where you wake up and you really feel like you've turned a corner with your skin. So as a practitioner, as a nutritional therapist, it's my job to kind of track your progress and make sure you are improving in areas, and also just to keep you motivated to keep going, because what can happen is you'll think this isn't doing anything and you stop and you try something else. And by stopping and trying something else, you've kind of shifted the progress. You don't know how close you were to actually achieving the goal that you wanted. And when you're working with someone, it can be a little bit easier to actually highlight the progresses that you might not have seen. So you might just be thinking, I've still got breakouts, this isn't doing anything, I'm going to give up. But actually, if you were to work with a facialist or a nutritional therapist or even a doctor, they would be able to see that, oh, actually, the inflammation in the skin looks lower than when we started. So you might still be thinking, I've still got loads of breakouts, but actually they're not so inflamed, they're not so cystic, and you've moved over to a less inflammatory form of acne. So you still have acne, but it's moving down in the scales of inflammation, which is good. Something else that could be happening is actually, yes, maybe you're still getting breakouts in a certain area, but the rest of the skin is looking a lot healthier. That's a good sign too. And yeah, like I mentioned, it's just tracking the other things that you might be seeing. You might have more energy. You might generally feel better within yourself. And that's a good sign that things are actually improving. So you might be coming out of winter and you're going towards spring. And it's so common for my clients to get to a point. I mean, for some people, it's a few months down the line. For others, it can actually be a year down the line. And they wake up and they think, wow, I've really turned a corner with my skin. And I can't believe how much progress I've made. So it can feel slow, 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 slow. And then all of a sudden you'll wake up and it will just kind of be like a snowball effect of things have just clicked into place and you can really see that you're progressing. I know it's difficult. I know it's difficult because I've been there. My journey to clear my skin was 10 years, and it was the final like 1 or 2 years where I started to learn more about nutrition and checking for underlying imbalances. That's when I actually picked up that I had polycystic ovarian syndrome, started working towards my hormones, and it was still a bumpy journey for me. I would have periods where my skin was great, my hormones were great, and then something would happen, it would set me back a little bit, and my periods would start going irregular, or they'd become more painful, or I'd start getting more breakouts. And it took me, I would say, maybe 3 years of knowing what I was doing, getting a good skincare routine, using supplements, using testing, being consistent with nutrition, for me to get to a point where I'm like, my skin actually doesn't bother me anymore. Whereas before it was, I'd have periods of good skin, then there might be a little bit of a setback, breakout. I'd have to work again to get back on top of it. But you can get to a point where you'll wake up and think, my skin actually isn't a huge drama for me anymore. It just kind of looks after itself. And if I get the odd breakout, I'm not bothered about it. So I really hope this was useful. It was just a quick video to try and keep you motivated with your progress. And if you do need help, I'm Amelia. I'm a nutritional therapist, skin specialist, and I work with clients one-to-one to help you achieve healthy skin.